Let go.
Hi everyone, this is Lisa Haven, and I've got an interesting report to share with you, specifically in regards to the Pentagon and how they are now preparing, them along with the DOD and many others in our government, are preparing for civil unrest. What I want to do is show you an initiative put out by the DOD. Now, this was put out quite a few years ago, and it's an ongoing research, which is why I like to study on it, but it's called the Minerva Initiative. Now, the reason that I want to bring this up is because it relates very much to some of the events that are transpiring today. And some of you may have heard of this initiative, others may have not. But here's the thing, it's a group or an organization, an initiative group that gathers information via universities and has universities do certain studies for the government. And what I want to do is show you those studies that they have handed out to universities, that the universities are doing for the government, so you can kind of take a gander and say, wow, I didn't, realize this is how legit the government thinks, civil unrest is, and how much they are preparing for civil unrest, both here domestically and, civil unrest internationally, wars internationally, terrorism internationally, but all of it. And I think you're going to find it fascinating. And another reason I want to bring it up is because the research is ongoing. It doesn't stop with 1 year. It continues 2014, 15, 16, and on to 17 and 18, and there's new initiatives added all the time and studies by university. But I think the best thing to do is let's delve into the Minerva Initiative so you can see for yourself some of the things that the government is preparing for domestically.
Dig on it. Research it.
On the Minerva Initiative, you can see up in the upper left-hand corner here that it's obviously linked and working with the Department of Defense. They even got their for government section here. But let's take a gander at some of these projects, research that they are handing out. At the top here, it says funded Minerva research projects and their corresponding institutions and principal investigators are listed below, and those are some of what we're going to go through. But announcing the project selected for 2015 Minerva Research Award, and it gets into some of that. But what I want to do is focus on this first set here. This is 2015, some studies that they're doing. They've actually received their own award. But notice that this goes all the way through 2018, 2015, 16, 17, 18, which means they're already partway through some of these, and they're going to be continuing them on. The first one is being conducted at Arizona State University, and it says it's a new analytics for measuring and countering social influence and persuasion of extremist groups. In other words, they want to study extremist groups being their own definition, that is people who are anti or who are pro-life, who are against homosexuality because of their religious belief, people who stock food, ammo, all of that, people who believe in the New World Order and end-time Bible prophecies and end-time prophecies. You fall into any of those categories, you can be considered a right-wing extremist, worthy of having your this research particularly conducted to find out when you will become aggressive, or what social influence you can give out to persuade people via media or whatever. Although, as a Christian, I would not harm a soul in the planet unless it's self-defense, of course, anybody. But here's what it says about the study, and this is also pushing more mass surveillance. But it states, dominant focus of the proposed work consists of information cascades, ICs, wherein large numbers of individual participants to spread information and opinions across the globe, oftentimes producing significant changes in attitudes and behavior. We will develop automated approaches informed by social science to determine what types of information go viral. Is that saying that they're going to censor my internet, or are they studying doing that? Anyway, and under what circumstances? We will develop novel measurements and analytic technologies for detecting ICs and understanding the ideology orientations of participating communities. So in other words, let's find out and study what people like myself and others telling you guys truth about what's going on, the impact they have, and how they push extremism, which I don't push extremism. So moving on, here are some of the other things. This one right here, scrolling down where it says University College of London, the social ecology of radicalization, a foundation for the design of CVE initiatives and their evaluation. Now, this is put together at a college in the United Kingdom. And I can't help but wonder if they are linking with our DOD, the United Kingdom. Why are we outsourcing so far away? Is this a study too touchy, say, for the American people? Nonetheless, it's something that is definitely worth pondering and considering. But this project, it says the project's purposes to capitalize on knowledge and methods accrued in criminology to investigate, number one, characteristics of radicalizing settings, places where individuals undergo all or part of the process of radicalization, both geographic and virtual, I guess, online. 2, the process of self and social selection through which individuals end up exposed to these radicalized settings. And 3, the systematic process which promote or suppress the emergence of radicalizing settings and hence a social, ecological, favorable or unfavorable to the radicalization. So again, now I get it. You know, yes, there's a level that the government needs to be studying radicalization, such as, you know, radical Islam and the jihadists that are threatening us. But when they start targeting a lot of their own civilians due to uprisings, due to, you know, they know there's good people in our government, there's bad people in our government. Now, there's a lot of corruption happening in our government right now, and I believe a lot of them are very worried about a civil uprising because you and I are waking up to that corruption, and they don't want to have any problems with us and them. Therefore, they are worried about an uprising against that corruption that they want to continue to do no matter what. That's something that they want to continue on that path. And so you and I are getting in the way of that. So this, I do believe, also plays an effect. There's a line to be, you know, study, you know, something that's, you know, happening, but at the same time, don't target Christian views or someone just because they believe in a New World Order or end-time Bible prophecy or have a specific belief one way or another. They shouldn't be called radicalized, and that is being weeded in. Even the patriotic views. If you're a veteran, they've targeted many prior veterans just for because of the fact that they have knowledge on how to fight in a war. They have knowledge with guns, and they should not take guns away from the people. So there's a lot of bad lines here, which is why I believe it's crucial that we know about projects such as these particular ones, because their target is no longer not just radicalized infiltration groups like, you know, radical Islam, ISIS, and Hamas, but it's also, you know, people who are just patriots who are standing against the corruption of the government, which, by the way, militias are a constitutional right, according to our Constitution, in the event that the government becomes corrupt, legally speaking. All right, so moving on. Those are just a few that I wanted to point out. There's also, you know, a few more things here. But now moving back to 2014 through 2017, these are projects that are going to continue all the way through 2017. I mean, they're going on now, and they're already partly underway. Now, here is another one that I want to show you. This is being done by Georgia State, and it's preventing the next generation, mapping the pathways of child mobilization into VEOs. This is done by Boston's Children's Hospital. Office of Naval Research there is the program manager. But it's a 3-year program that started in 2014, 2015, 2016. It ends this year sometime. But it's research that will identify the specific process of pathways of children mobilization into terrorist movements, and create a model of children's involvement in violent extremism organizations. Specific detailed cases will be developed using primary and secondary data for Afghanistan, Pakistan, Israel, Palestine, Iraq, Syria, and Somalia, in conjunction with regional partners who will facilitate the collection of interview data by local social workers and therapy. Local social workers, key, and therapists. Well, if a kid gets rounded up by a social worker in this area, who knows? Could you become a part of this study to see what makes your kid more radicalized because he believes in the Constitution? So it's not just, Pakistan, Afghanistan. They're not just targeting jihadists here or ISIS members here. I do believe that it's much broader than that. It's in general. The project will generate a valid model that can explain children's involvement in terrorist organizations. It can inform practices, policies, training, and further research aimed at developing evidence-based interventions at multiple levels. Let's figure out how we can intervene. Here is a few more down here I want to show you. I'm not going to read through all of these, but here's one, American Muslim converts in context of security and society. That's great. Find out, some information on that if there is a problem with it. Household formation systems, marriage markets, and societal resilience. Tracking development using new approaches to measure and model state fragility. Aiding resilience, the impact of foreign assistance on the dynamics of intrastate armed conflict. And here is another one, political crisis and language. A computational assessment of social disequilibrium and security threats. That's another good one, but it goes internationally. They want to, look at the motives, look at the identity, find predictive patterns in behavior and language. It's basically our government becoming sort of a psychologist, a therapist. Let's find out how the brain works so we know every single move. And we already have a list. The government already has a list of those potential terrorists. It's called Main Core, and they have a red list, so to speak, of names of people like you and I that they believe are, a threat. So one last thing I want to show you here as well. This one's good too. Understanding the origin, characteristics, and implications of mass political movement. What makes a political, group tick or move? Why would they have that as an issue? Well, because we're a two-party state when in all reality, Democrats, Republican is one party anymore. It's not a two-party, it's one, in my opinion. There isn't a left and right anymore. It's packaged a prettier little way for one view or another. So political moves, new political groups are a threat because they may not go along with the New World Order. They may not go along with the corruption. And here they are studying that. You want to know the real agenda of what the elitists, the globalists, the Illuminati, the Bilderbergs, the governments are doing. Find out what they're studying. That will give you every single answer you need. And now here are ones that are also finishing this year. There's one in here too. This one is who does not become a terrorist and why. This was put together at Naval Postgrad School, Maria Rasmussen. It's not about terrorism, but about supporters of political violence. Our goal is twofold. First, we want to study supporters of armed militancy, just the supporters, in order to describe the panology of activities they are willing to undertake short of violence. Doesn't even have to incur violence. And the determinants of those actions. At the same time, we aim to contribute to theory building in the field of individual radicalization by looking at a control group that has so far never been studied. So lots of things like this. I think I'm going to leave a link to this entire site below. Please go through all of these studies. I honestly just pulled up a few so you have an idea. But there you have it. There you have it. Lots of things to think about and lots of things that our government is now doing. And as I stated earlier in the report, you really want to know what the elite are planning. Then look at what they're studying and look at what they're supplying. Look at what they're preparing for. Now, I'll say this in addition. I've done numerous reports on this where I've proved the information, but internment and resettlement document, if you have not seen that, Google it. Grab the PDF, but it actually shows a FEMA camp, and where they re-educate people who are considered violent extremism, and that's your version of a FEMA camp. Government calls them internment and resettlement camps. Also RX-84 centers, something to Google as well, which are found on the border and supposedly are for immigration. Well, we see how that's working out, because instead of sending immigrants somewhere, they get put and given bus tickets all across the country. Agenda is there. That's a topic for another day. Not to mention the fact that they have, armed and bought massive amounts of food. They bought massive amounts of weaponry, of ammo, of armor, and things like that, riot gear, night gear. They're also building up our local police departments. You can go, there's a website you can look at, it's one of my prior reports, blanking on that website, but you can look how much militarization your police department has become. Mine had 3 MRAPs recently donated to them, and a lot of the times they would parade it around town in parades or school events, showing off the big guns, so to speak. And that's not the fault of the police department. I think there's an agenda. I like the police, but there's good and corrupt police as well as everything else. And I think there is an agenda underway by our government to turn the people, so to speak, and against those. And that's one reason for the militarization, also because there is an agenda underway. Otherwise they wouldn't be doing all these studies and finding out. But nonetheless, I wanted to bring you the latest on that. If you're not prepared with food, now is the time to do so. Please, please get prepared. Stock up, bulk items. I use foodforliberty.com/haven. I will leave a link below. So check that out, but get prepared before it all hits the fan, so to speak. Nobody knows the timestamp on that, and just do the best you can. A lot of people say, well, I don't have the money to move out of town and this and that. Look, it's you can't close yourself off in a bag and say, I'm going to stop everything I do and live away from the world out of fear. No, but at the same time, be prepared and ready, where you are. If you can, get to the outskirts of the city, so to speak, get to the outskirts. If you're in the city, well, then prepare being in the city. If you have the advantage of going out to a smaller town or even rurally, great, even better. But not everybody has that capability or the resources to do that. So just do what you can where you are as best as you can. Anyhow, wanted to bring you the latest on that. Also, don't forget to check out my partner, getthetea.com. Remember, he is doing not Food for Liberty, but getthetea.com at Life Change Tea. He is doing an extra special thing where every so many orders are free. It's selected randomly. Not everybody's order is. It's a random selection. But there has been 2 to 3 people now who have gotten their orders free. Great stuff there. And I personally love the liquid supplements as well as the tea. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning into my channel. This is Lisa signing off from outside.
So what's it gonna take? What's it gonna take? What's it gonna take to be great? Alright. Y'all go ahead and subscribe. You want to drop on the T's or whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? We just try to drop the drop at the drop. Trying to keep you understanding that, we care. We care, baby. Nah, man, get the drop. You know what I'm saying? Comb through it. Research it. I got a lot of researching to do based on some of the concepts and the terminologies that she's bringing forth. A lot of people, you know, it's coming all kind of ways. We're just trying to get the babies out of it, you know what I mean? And we're getting them. We're getting them. So as long as we can, you know, continue to be aware of these things and know that, you know what I'm saying, we know what we got, but still the awareness is key. Knowledge is power, right? And it's all real. So when you want this thing to disappear, you want it to go back to the illusion, you're like, I can't, because it keeps, more drop keeps coming out to remind me that it is a illusion of seclusion, that this thing is being, you know, forced into my frequency to separate me from my brothers, from my sisters, from my heritage, from my inheritance. You know what I'm saying? Once you realize that you are a rich people, this is land, this is yours, it is indigenous to you, and you are indigenous to it. You are one in the same frequency as your creator and the land that he creates. That is why all indigenous people have their own indigenous lot, by order, by frequency. Their lot is in their frequency. Our lot is in our frequency as a tribe. You know what I'm saying? As the heritage, the seed of Israel. So do your research, man, and let's just keep dropping it. Everybody, I'm proud of everybody, man, for just, you know, dropping the fear. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you going to do? You know, you could say, why? Why would you, you know, drop all this? Aren't you afraid? What about your kids? What about this? What about that? I'm like, well, what about my kids if I don't say shit? I mean, right now the UN is taking over the education system in such a way that, I mean, parents are starting to have to do like a checklist, you know what I'm saying, to say, okay, in case you get separated, in case you never see your child again, what vocation do you want your child in? Do you want your child to be a carpenter? All right. Do you want your child to be, you know what I'm saying, you know, whatever? And you're going to have to choose the career path or the you know, the checklist of what they're going to do to your child. Because remember, when martial law happens, that school goes into lockdown. And when a school's in lockdown, you can't see your kids. They don't release the children until the emergency is declared over. But what if the emergency was never declared over? Have you thought about that, parents, when you drop your kid off? What if the martial law happened while your child was in school? You would not be able to have access to your child. And what if it was forever? That's why they have these forums to say, in case you get separated forever, which way should we steer your child in? Okay, well, Bobby's parent checked out that, you know what I'm saying, he wants Bobby to go into farming. So Bobby's going to be a farmer. You know, Sarah's going to be a, that, you know, I don't know, man. You know what I'm saying? All kinds of stuff. You get it. Don't make me, why are you making me think about, you know what I'm saying? You get it, man? So stay up, choose up, man. Suit up. What are you going to do? How do you stay up? You stay up by reading, being reminded of the words of hey. How do you suit up? You suit up by, you know what I'm saying, getting the drop, getting information, suiting up your ruach first, right? Then you suit up mentally, consciously. You know what I'm saying? Then you suit up however you got to suit up. You know what I'm saying? Smilez be dropping that in my backpack. And like the sister said, in reality, you don't really need anything. In reality, the Most High, man, wants you to put him on display. He wants you to go out there so he can show you who he is. Alright? So it doesn't mean you go unprepared. If you can prepare, whatever. You might be able to prepare for your brothers and sisters that are not prepared, right? So, you know, if you can pack extra stuff or extra, you know, whatever you got to do. But in reality, we just got to make a move. You know what I'm saying? And none of us really know when, but somehow we're going to know when. You know what I mean? So, it's going to be a beautiful thing. You know, to us, it's rejoicing. To the ones that are trying to hang on to every little seed and fabric of this system, you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, but it was a temporary layout on a permanent solution. Kwam Yasharala, rise Israel, stay up, suit up. And you already know how to choose up. Vibrate, and release the fear. That's how you choose up. Above the firmament, above the vibrational divide, above the illusion, above space and time, you know what I'm saying? They got us trapped in space and time. We are not subject to these principles. We are not subject to their laws. Not when you're the real deal. I love y'all, man. Be easy.
Wars internationally, terrorism internationally, but all of it. And I think you're going to find it fascinating. And another reason I want to bring it up is because the research is ongoing. It doesn't stop with 1 year. It continues 2014, 15, 16, and on to 17 and 18, and there's new initiatives added all the time and studies by university. But I think the best thing to do is let's delve into the Minerva Initiative so you can see for yourself some of the things that the government is preparing for domestically.
Dig on it. Research it.
On the Minerva Initiative, you can see up in the upper left-hand corner here that it's obviously linked and working with the Department of Defense, which means they're already partway through some of these, and they're going to be continuing them on. The first one is being conducted at Arizona State University, and it says it's a new analytics for measuring and countering social influence and persuasion of extremist groups. In other words, they want to study extremist groups being their own definition, that is people who are anti or who are pro-life, who are against homosexuality because of their religious belief, people who stock food, ammo, all of that, people who believe in the New World Order and end-time Bible prophecies and end-time prophecies. And the reason that I want to bring this up is because it relates very much to some of the events that are transpiring today. And some of you may have heard of this initiative, others may have not. But here's the thing, it's a group or an organization, an initiative group that gathers information via universities and has universities do certain studies for the government. And what I want to do is show you those studies that they have handed out to universities, that the universities are doing for the government, so you can kind of take a gander and say, wow, I didn't, realize this is how legit the government thinks, civil unrest is, and how much they are preparing for civil unrest, both here domestically and, civil unrest internationally.
Let go.
Hi everyone, this is Lisa Haven, and I've got an interesting report to share with you, specifically in regards to the Pentagon and how they are now preparing, them along with the DOD and many others in our government, are preparing for civil unrest. What I want to do is show you an initiative put out by the DOD. Now, this was put out quite a few years ago, and it's an ongoing research, which is why I like to study on it, but it's called the Minerva Initiative. Now, they even got their for government section here. But let's take a gander at some of these projects, research that they are handing out. At the top here, it says funded Minerva research projects and their corresponding institutions and principal investigators are listed below, and those are some of what we're going to go through. But announcing the project selected for 2015 Minerva Research Award, and it gets into some of that. But what I want to do is focus on this first set here. This is 2015, some studies that they're doing. They've actually received their own award. But notice that this goes all the way through 2018, 2015, 16, 17, 18.